My story comes from about 8,500 kilometers from Barcelona in Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. Beautiful scenery, undulating hills, steep and harsh hills. The reason why I have a third leg down those hills. Don't be fast to judge. They are home to the majestic mountain gorillas. Beautiful beasts, majestic. In their company, you feel overwhelmed but respectful, safe. Made famous by Diana Fossey in her book, Gorillas in the Mist. It became a popular movie that featured in many homes. I didn't get an opportunity to watch it. However, what's more remarkable about Bwindi is what happened when it was created. Communities were pushed out of their homes, places they had spent most of their lives. For example, the Batwa, an indigenous group that had sustained their livelihoods in the forest, eating the fruits, harvesting meat, which later became poaching. When they were pushed out, conflicts started happening. Contestations, I want to call them, between the park and the communities. The communities would go back to pick medicine, to harvest meat. Animals would come out of the park. The gorillas to eat some bananas. The baboons to eat everything. Even your goat. Yes. I remember a story told to me by a colleague. He watched a baboon tear apart a dog. Like this. Said, these ferocious beasts. They call them thieves in Uganda because they terrorize people's gardens. To mitigate these conflicts, conservations like me, local governments, some local leaders, donors, thought about introducing democratic approaches to conservation. I think it was the buzzword at that time. That was around the early 90s. It was selling like hot cake, democratic approaches to conservation. These democratic approaches to conservation would take back power to the people. They would be able to conserve their wildlife and accrue benefits from them. At least they thought. To do this, institutions like the community-based organizations, the community-based conservation organizations were introduced to help the communities, to guide the communities into this new world of conservation, where they would benefit but also conserve their environment. In a place called Nkuringo, not very far from the Congo border, in the southern sector of Bwindi, Nkuringo Conservation and Development Foundation was born in 2004. It had a new shining constitution. They elected new leaders, and off the conservation program started. I would like to think that at that time, the misty hills and foggy hills of Bwindi in Nkuringo felt like Abraham Lincoln was talking to them about conservation for the people, by the people. I had a chat with a friend who worked with the Uganda Wildlife Authority, and he told me, those guys? I said, which guys? He said, the communities were making almost 100,000 US dollars a year. Can you imagine? Just imagine how much that is in Uganda shillings. For a moment, I gazed into space, I imagined, how would I spend that money? breakfast in Kampala, dinner in Paris. A diamond watch, diamond teeth. Well, allow me to take you in a time machine. 18 years from 2004 in 2022, as I conducted my research, trying to understand how conservation conflicts are produced and sustained. I was at pains, struggling to understand what happened to this wonderful and innovative idea. It was supposed to lift the community out of poverty, empower them, but also conserve biodiversity. It still haunts me to this day. I try to understand what happened. Perhaps I think to myself, I'm just naive and gullible, over-enthusiastic conservationist. Naive as I was when I fell in love at 16 years old. My heart was broken, just in case you wanted to know. Naive, they say like a fish. I don't know why. Because fish tastes nice. Perhaps power was given with the left hand and taken away with the right hand. An impressive sleight of hand that would make the great Houdini jealous. Before I conclude my story, my unfinished story, I think this is part one of the story. If you come to Kampala and then travel to Bwindi, I'll tell you part two. I was chatting with the current chairperson of Nkuringo Conservation Development Fund, and I asked him, I wanted to know why they changed the constitution to extend their power, to extend their time in office. He said to me, the organization made a constitution that can be amended. That's why we amended it. But if a country like Uganda can amend the constitution twice to extend the presidency, how about a small organization like ours? I leave you with a thought today, this evening. Can democratic approaches work in an undemocratic country?